was right. Randri!
No. Cassandra.
Demigod meets Viking. Finally, all of my wildest dreams have come true. Now, of all the crossovers I've been wanting to see in this series, this is probably one of the last I want to see. I've also seen people say this is the first ever Assassin's Creed crossover. Yeah, it's definitely not. But anyways, this crossover came out a few days ago, and I figured I'd check it out, cause why not? I have nothing better to do. Now, obviously, the title is an exaggeration. I know there's a decent amount of people who wanted to see this crossover happen, mainly fans of Odyssey and Valhalla, and that's fine. I personally don't like Odyssey and Valhalla much, so this didn't really excite me at all, to be honest. But for fans of the games and these characters, I'm sure this was exciting. This crossover comes in 2 parts, which I wish Ubisoft was a little more clear with the order you're supposed to play them in. Luckily, I did some research before jumping in, and it's a good thing I did, because the first part of this story is in Odyssey and explains a lot of what's happening in the second part with Valhalla. If you were to just play Valhalla's story, I mean, it still makes sense mostly if you've finished Odyssey, but there'd still be a lot missing. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I actually liked Odyssey's part of the crossover story a lot more than Valhalla's. But these crossover stories are free. In fact, Odyssey even had a free weekend along with this, so at least you're not paying for anything. That's a plus. I'd say each part is around an hour and a half to 2 hours, so pretty short generally speaking. Essentially though, if you like Odyssey or like Valhalla, you'll probably like this crossover. It's really just more of the same for both games gameplay wise. I'm personally not a huge fan of either game's gameplay, so I didn't like a good majority of it, but there's a few story moments and cutscenes, specifically in Odyssey's part of the crossover, that I actually found interesting. It starts with Alexios/Cassandra going on vacation for 6 months, wanting to get away from all the fighting and killing. This crossover actually went pretty deep with the character. Alexios doesn't want to be immortal. He doesn't want to live forever and outlive all his friends and family and be alone, which was a surprisingly deep theme to take with the character in a game like Odyssey, where the tone usually feels really light and comedic. It was kind of refreshing, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, there's still a lot of that ridiculous humor, but I wasn't expecting the extra depth for this character in a free crossover nonetheless. Also, this story expands upon the end of Odyssey and the DLCs and actually attributes to the main plot. It doesn't feel like a filler story and actually provides closure and explanation to where Alexios or Cassandra go after Odyssey. There's also a fair amount with the Izu and even the appearance of the apple. Again, in terms of the missions and gameplay, it's just more of Odyssey, nothing really new there. What is new is the story and cutscenes providing closure and explanation to where life takes the demigods, which I truthfully was not expecting. There's also even a post-credit scene of Alexios in Egypt with the Origins theme music playing in the background, which hopefully is a hint at an Origins crossover, which would actually have me way more excited as we may get to see Bayek after Origins story and get some new content for the game, which we hadn't gotten in years. Either that or it's just a tease and reference to Origins and that's it. I don't know. It would be cool to see Bayek return though, as he's up there with some of my favorite Assassin's Creed protagonists, and the way Origins ended definitely left potential for more stories with Bayek and Aya. Now for the Valhalla part of the crossover is when Eivor and Cassandra actually meet. Just like what I said with Odyssey, this crossover just feels like more Valhalla. More puzzles with stones or trying to get into a house, which is just one of the most boring puzzles I've ever done, and trying to align these lights to open an Izu vault. A few combat sections and more drinking games and flighting with Cassandra. Nothing new, and it wasn't very fun for me. Again though, if you like that stuff, then you'll probably enjoy this crossover. Essentially, the premise is Eivor decides to head to the island of Skye that's being terrorized with nightmares, and he decides to go because this random stranger in Valka told him to, which doesn't actually make much sense. Like, doesn't Eivor have a clan to lead and look out for in Ravensthorpe? Why would he go to this random island in the first place? Anyways, when he gets there, he meets Cassandra, and they just immediately start fighting for like 2 minutes, which I guess looks cool and is well animated, but I'm not sure why I couldn't be the one fighting instead of just watching. Anyways, Eivor and Cassandra team up to find an Izu artifact, and that's about it. Not much really happens in this. Eivor and Cassandra meet and interact, which is cool, I guess, but that's actually about all this story has to offer. It doesn't attribute to any bigger plot or story, like Odyssey's did at least. It feels like the entire thing was filler and didn't need to happen. Not to mention Eivor and Cassandra's childish squabbling and dynamic that was meant to come off as charming, I guess, but left me more annoyed than anything. It feels really rushed and bare, like they know each other for a day, keep fighting and arguing, and then suddenly they're best friends. Nothing about this dynamic felt natural to me. And really what stood out to me was the confirmation that Cassandra never becomes a hidden one, and neither does Eivor. So while I guess it's cool to have these two characters cross over, it's clear there was no actual point to the crossover on Valhalla's part other than just seeing two of the series' protagonists interact. I mean, Altair was dead when he met Ezio, and that was 20 times more interesting and impactful than this. So like I said at the beginning, if you like Odyssey and Valhalla, then you'll more than likely enjoy this. If you don't like the games, however, don't bother with it. It's not going to introduce anything new or intriguing that'll make you like the games. That about concludes my thoughts on the crossover though. Feel free to let me know in the comments whether or not you enjoyed this crossover, if you've played it yet, or if this video helped you decide whether or not to try it out. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you dropped a like on the video, and if you're new here, consider subscribing to the channel. I make a lot of Assassin's Creed related videos here. Other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, Assassins.